Tonight, we're going to start with a look at a criminal case that begs the question, what is justice? Is it punishment for a young man who attacked a stranger and shoved his fingers into her most intimate parts? Or is it compassion for that same young man who was barely 19 at the time of the crime and had no prior criminal record? That is our big story tonight. The answer to that question, of course, depends on your point of view, but this very real scenario played out in a Washington County courtroom recently, and the outcome left the victim, the woman who was attacked, furious. Now, before we get going, I want to warn you that this story contains video of the sexual assault that some viewers might not want to watch. The victim in this case has given us permission to show it because she wants you to see what happened.
I was headed home from a meeting, and I was at the Hillsborough Transit Center.
Kristen Emerson is an outreach worker who deals with the homeless in Washington County. She's also a recovering drug addict. This is video of her on April 12th, 2023. According to court testimony that morning around 11:20, Kristen was on her way home from a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. She walked to the MAC station in downtown Hillsborough. A young man in a gray hoodie was already there. His name is Jacob Ponce. Ponce seemed to notice Kristen when she arrived, looking at her a couple of times. Kristen got on the eastbound train, Ponce followed, and brushed her behind with his hand. Kristen thought it was an accident. Did you kind of suspect him?
I did because, I seen him sitting there, and I was in the corner the whole time, just, like on my phone, but I, noticed the pants and the shoes for some reason, just because that's all I seen from where I was standing. And so, but yes, when I got on, because he was the one that got up to kind on after me. But,
so you were kind of wondering, is he the one who touched my rear end as he was going by?
Or am I tripping and just bumped something? But so I sit down and...
She was not tripping. Video from the train shows Ponce got on after her close behind, then sat on the left side of the aisle. Kristen is there in black on the right side. After a 12-minute ride, the train arrived at the Willow Creek MAC station and Kristen got off. Security cameras show that Ponce in the gray hoodie followed her. In court, the case prosecutor, Bryce Bissinger, described what happened next.
He then comes up behind her with his left hand, with his two middle fingers upraised, and penetrates her from behind.
Kristen said it was so forceful she felt like he was trying to lift her off the ground.
And I turned, and it all happened so fast, but I turned and I look at him, and I'm pretty sure I pushed him a little, like what the hell? And he slapped me. Then he slapped me on my side, so hard. It was hard. He was strong for being a little, a skinny, scrawny guy. It was violating. So violating. And I just think about my daughter or my niece, if something like that happened to them. Or
police swarmed the area, found Ponce, and arrested him. Nearly a year later, on April 2nd, Ponce was in court to face the charges: sex abuse in the second degree, a felony, and sex abuse in the third degree, a misdemeanor. So here's where things get interesting from a question of justice. The day the case was set to go to trial, the judge in the case, Janelle Whipper from Washington County, decided that she was going to knock the felony down to a misdemeanor after the defendant pled guilty to both the original charges. Now, that is allowed under the law, but lawyers not connected to Washington County tell me that's very unusual. That's typically only done when the prosecutor offers to reduce it as part of a plea bargain. For the judge to bring that forward on her own, highly unusual. The prosecutor was furious and let that be known in open court.
This is a shocking and frankly horrifying incident that occurred in broad daylight between a stranger and a victim that he obviously and clearly stalked. I do not believe that the community will be served by giving this man a misdemeanor conviction. Frankly, the victim does not agree with this sentence either.
But the defense attorney, Annette Riddle, argued that charging Ponce with felony sex abuse in the second degree was too harsh.
I've had sex abuse 2 cases where the facts were much, much more egregious than this. And that's because the statute of sex abuse 2 encompasses all non-consensual sexual contact, including sexual intercourse that is non-consensual. This is a creepy thing that is horrible and horrifying, and there is absolutely shock value, and you watch it and it's terrible, and I'm not trying to discount it in any way. But it is really different from having non-consensual sexual intercourse.
Judge Whipper agreed. She began her reasoning by saying she too was shocked.
Look, I think this is a great example of two things can be true at the same time. It is completely true that this was shocking, it was horrible, it was disgusting, and Ms. Emerson was violated in a way that absolutely should not have happened. It is something that I share the shocking nature of what was seen on the video. And I understand why the state is taking the position it's taking. However, it's also true at the same time that this is an individual who is, or at the time of the incident was barely 19, has no previous criminal history, and at least at this point is showing accountability and remorse for his actions. But given the factors such as the lack of criminal history, the desire to take accountability today and spare the victim from having to speak in court in front of strangers, does, in this court's opinion, create a need to give Mr. Ponce immediate misdemeanor treatment.
Kristen, the victim, had no problem telling me her story. I'm a stranger. She was stunned by the judge's decision. Feel like she was more concerned about him than you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So I was just sick and appalled. I couldn't believe it. And honestly, everybody that was there that day, we were all just in shock.
In the sentencing, the judge gave the prosecutor most of what he wanted. The prosecutor wanted a sentence of 90 days jail. The judge gave Ponce 30 days. But she also ordered him to undergo sex offender treatment, register as a sex offender, and banned him from TriMet property for 5 years. She also put him on 5 years probation, which was also what the prosecutor wanted. But she did drop that felony to a misdemeanor. The message to Kristen, the victim, was crushing.
I will never understand. And, I hope for the judge's sake that, I don't know. When it happens again, then what is she going to say? Especially with all, like I said, all the evidence and everything that happened. I don't get it. I never will.
Now, in preparing the story, I emailed Judge Whipper to ask for an interview or a statement on the case. She did not respond. Instead, I got a statement from the presiding judge in Washington County. It reads in part, "I can see that despite the reduction to a misdemeanor, the penalties imposed are actually more severe in many ways and likely more protective of the community. For instance, by reducing the offense to a misdemeanor, the judge was able to impose 5 years of formal probation with strict conditions, including a lengthier duration of no contact with the victim, whereas a felony conviction would have resulted in only 3 years of formal probation based on the defendant's lack of prior criminal history." Thank you for your response, Judge. But since he was already charged with one misdemeanor, I wonder if that reasoning holds. It seems like the judge could have used that one misdemeanor for the extra penalties that the felony did not carry. I also asked for and received a statement from the Washington County District Attorney's Office. It reads in part, "We strongly believe the predatory conduct in this case required a felony-level conviction, and we stand by all the arguments we made in court for that result. The victim in this case and the community at large deserve a system that holds criminals fully accountable for their actions. We made that argument in this case and will continue to do so in the future." So, what's your take on all this? Do you side with the judge who gave the young man a break, or do you agree with the prosecutor and with Kristen, who feels it diminishes what happened to her? Send us an email and let us know, will you? The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090. I look forward to hearing from you.